Hello, I'm Michael. Today we're going to talk about cats. They are fuzzy, they're furry, they're adorable, they're little murder monsters. They gallop like horses, and they're generally unpredictable and mercurial. You never know what's going on in a cat's brain. I've had many cats in my life, and every one of them has been a bit of a character. And what I want to talk about specifically is ways of dealing with misbehavior and training a cat. And I say that with the greatest amount of just sarcasm, because you can't train a cat to do anything. At least I can't. But we're going to talk about different ways of dealing with misbehavior and my general philosophy that's worked very well for me for dealing with the adventure that is the feline. So let's say that your cat's doing something you don't want them to do. So what can you do? Well, you can punish the cat, you can bribe the cat, or you can do nothing. And every one of those is a horrible, horrible idea, and I'm going to tell you why. If you punish a cat, the cat may come to fear you. And they will continue to be bad when you're not around because they associate you with the punishment. This kind of turns you into a cat cop. That's a 24/7 job, and there's no overtime. It doesn't fix the core problem, which is that a cat's got a need it's trying to fulfill, and it doesn't care about your rules. You don't want Mr. Kitty climbing the bookshelf, knocking the TV over, but Kitty doesn't care. He doesn't care about your things. He only wants to find a high perch to survey the environment because it makes them feel safe. It meets the needs of their curiosity. And when you punish the cat, it doesn't associate the punishment with the crime. They associate the punishment with you. If you're not around, the cat is going to continue to do the bad thing you don't want it to do. It can become afraid of you. You don't want your cat to be afraid of you. You don't want to say the cat's name when they're bad, and then you try to call them, and the cat's used to associating their name with a negative reinforcement. Your cat's not going to come when you call them. So the next option is you can bribe a cat. But the problem is you're rewarding bad behavior, and the cat will absolutely figure out how to manipulate you and press your buttons to get more food. If they're learning to dive bomb you in bed in the middle of the night will get them fed, you're going to need a bomb shelter because they're going to continue to do that behavior. If the cat learns that meowing at you repeatedly and clawing you and biting you to get your immediate attention will get them some affection, they're going to do that every time they want something. You haven't established that you're the boss in that relationship and that they need to bend to your will and not the other way around. It's important to remember that you need to be a kitty parent, not a kitty friend. You got a job to do. So what happens if you do nothing? Well, the cat's not going to learn anything one way or another. As bad as it is to punish the cat or bribe them, at least they're learning something about the behavior that they're doing. If you try to ignore that bad behavior, it gives the cat no feedback of any kind, and they're just going to keep right on doing it. Cats are smarter than people give them credit for. They may not read our moods and intentions with that same supernatural ability as dogs, but they get it when we're trying to get our point across. If they seem to not get it, that's because the cat's needs are superseding your rules. Now here's the trick that I've found. You got to correct the cat's behavior in such a way that the cat associates the punishment with the act and not with you. If the cat keeps jumping up on the bookshelf and knocking things over, you got to teach Kitty that the bookshelf's not a very good place to be. Put some pennies and a couple of soda cans and tie the cans together, the string, and put them up on the bookshelf. The cat jumps up, cans get knocked over, they make a loud noise, they might grab Kitty's paw, and the cat gets afraid. They don't like loud noises. They don't like to be startled like that. But the cat associates jumping on the bookshelf with the trauma of the loud noise and being afraid. The cat learns to associate the act with the punishment. They recognize that their action leads to an undesirable result for themselves. Basically, you make the bad behavior less desirable to the cat, and you make the kitty think that the idea is theirs and not yours. I don't want to jump up there because the can monster will get me. Hand in hand with this punishment, you also have to reward the good behavior, and you got to give Kitty an outlet that meets their needs in a more desirable way. If you take the bookshelf example, we've made it less attractive by booby trapping it, but we're going to get an even better result. If we give the cat something safer that meets their need to be up high, that's not the bookshelf. By meeting that need that prompts this destructive exploring, it also motivates the kitty to seek a better alternative and leave the bookshelf alone. Give them a cat tree. Give kitty a safe and acceptable place to roost, and the cat won't give that bookshelf a second thought. Let's say kitty chews on the cables behind your computer. Spray some bitter apple on the cables. Cats don't like bitter apple. Wow, these black snakes taste horrible. I won't bite them anymore. And meanwhile, you put a distracting and entertaining toy or a puzzle somewhere else in the room, and you give the cat a place to go to get rid of that extra energy that they've got. You can also make it undesirable by putting some citrus oil back there. Cats hate citrus scents. You get a citrus candle or put a little citrus oil on a napkin or something. The cat's not going to go back there anymore. It's not going to have anything that they want, and they're not going to like what they find back there. But again, they associate that negative reinforcement with their behavior and not with you. When the cat does something bad, you got to try to put yourselves in their shoes and understand what need it is that they're trying to meet. Is it hunger? Is it boredom? Is it safety, curiosity? And you got to give them a better outlet for that need and encourage them to use it. And then you have to take steps to make the bad result less desirable. So my first cat as an adult was Gizmo. And Gizmo was an adoption from the pound. He was a feral and he was about 6 months old when I got a hold of him. He used to attack me, like he would bite and claw if I tried to take his toy away. He was a wild little guy. Respected no boundaries. If you were trying to eat something, he would literally like climb up your back and stick his head between you and your plate to get at your food. And then he would get growly and hissy if you tried to take him away from the food. He was a very ill-behaved kitty. I never punished him. I never yelled at him. I never smacked him. Like there's people that actually spank cats. I don't understand that at all. All you're going to do is make a cat afraid of you. But anyway, the point is that I didn't use negative reinforcement from me. I didn't squirt him with a squirt bottle. I didn't yell no, or any of that stuff. What I did do, there was one concession to that, is that when the cat's doing something bad or dangerous, I need to let them know that it's undesirable. But cats don't know words. I can't say no, expect them to know what no means. So I make a sound that I would never ever make in normal conversation, and it's a very distinctive sound, and they only hear this sound when they're being bad and they need to stop. I modeled it off of a sound that many animals already instinctively understand as a warning. A rattlesnake. I never make that sound unless the cat's being bad, and that kind of cuts through whatever noise is in the room. It's very easy to hear. My neighbors don't hear it, but the cat hears it, and they know that I don't want them to do what they're doing. It's not a punishment, it's a warning. And it works very well. And again, they never mistake that sound, because I would never be talking and, oh, what a cute little kitty. Like, you just never do that. That sound only has one purpose, and they will never mistake that for something else. When they're being bad, I don't call them by name. I don't say, Marty or Gizmo, bad kitty. I want them to come to me when I say their name. I don't want them to associate their name with a bad thing. So anyway, back to Gizmo. I only reinforced the good behavior. When he was bad, I took steps to prevent him from being bad, but I didn't punish him. When he displayed bad behavior with me, when he bit me or scratched me, I would step away, back up, and I would ignore him. It's not ignoring the problem. You are intentionally not reacting to the cat's bad behavior. You're not feeding the troll, so to speak. And he learned that he would only get my attention by being calm and not being aggressive. And it worked. It worked so fantastically that this little murder monster, by the time he was an adult, you know how cats will kick at you if you tickle their belly? Or, they might bite at you when you try to trim their nails and things like that. Gizmo was a teddy bear. You could not tickle that cat. You could get him right there on the back of the leg. You could tickle his little feety feet. You could grab his belly and get in there, and he was just, meow, meow, my life is great, meow. Like, he was the most laid back cat I have ever met. Could trim his nails, just pick him up, and he was just like, okay, whatever, I don't care. I only reinforced the good behavior, and I showed him that by doing things my way, by following the rules, he would get what he wants. And when he doesn't follow the rules, he will never, ever get what he wants. Not only will he not get what he wants, he won't get any attention at all. And I definitely used the negative reinforcement that he thought was his own idea. Where he associated the bad behavior with the act and not with me being a punisher. In fact, I don't think he ever felt that I punished him at any point, even though I was definitely putting cans around the house. The mats that you use to protect your carpet from a chair, places where he kept going and he would be knocking stuff over, I would cut those up into strips because they have those little nubs on the bottom. They're very uncomfortable to stand on. I'd put them back there, and his little feet didn't like the sensitivity of those little nubs, and he wouldn't go back there anymore. He learned to be a very good cat. Then there was Marty. Marty was also a rescue. He was about 4 or 5 months old when I got him. He was very laid back. I don't know if there's such a thing as cat autism, but I suspect Marty might be on the spectrum if there is such a thing, because he's very good at certain things, but he's also a little bit odd. He didn't know how to play. You dangle a piece of string in front of him when he was a kitten, and he would get all excited, but he didn't know what to do with it. He didn't know to swat at it or bite it. Like, he got excited, but he didn't know how to respond to that excitement. I had to show him how to play. I've never had to teach a cat like to grab and bite and kick and claw and be a kitten before, but Marty needed to be taught that. Anyway, Marty is the most willful cat I have ever met. He knows I don't want him in the kitchen. He knows. I have no doubt in my mind that he knows exactly what he's doing when he sneaks in there. Now, why don't I want him in the kitchen? Well, there was the freezer incident where he got in the kitchen, climbed on top of the refrigerator, he managed to jimmy the freezer door open, and he left it like that in the middle of the night. By the time I found that the freezer door was open, everything in the freezer was spoiled. He can be a bad kitty. Anyway, the point is that he was very willful, and I tried everything. All of my little tricks, the cans with the pennies in them, that stuff worked, but he's kind of like a velociraptor in Jurassic Park, where they keep testing the different parts of the fence to see. They never test the same part twice. Well, that's what Marty was like. If he couldn't jump over the cabinet, he would go down low at the ground. If he couldn't go down low at the ground, he would try to find another way in. And he was always probing and poking and prodding. And if I ever slipped up once, if those cans weren't on the counter for even 1 second because I was doing dishes and I had to move them or something like that, if I didn't put them back, Marty would realize it and he'd be in the kitchen. Marty doesn't realize that I'm a tinkerer. And with the advent of Arduino and smart everything, I had a wonderful idea and it totally worked. There are no less than 3 motion detectors in my kitchen. There is one that will only be set off by a human being of human height. In other words, a cat is not going to be tall enough to set this thing off. The other 2 will absolutely be set off by both a human being and a cat. If a person walks into the kitchen, the human one goes off and both the cat ones go off. And The only thing that happens is the kitchen light comes on. However, if there's any motion in the kitchen and the human motion sensor did not get a detection, the vacuum cleaner turns on. Checkmate, Marty. Checkmate. If Marty tries to jump over the counter motion detector gets him. If he tries to sneak in on the floor motion detector gets him. The vacuum cleaner turns on and he hauls butt. I have had this system in continuous operation now for 2 years. How often do you think Marty continues to test whether he can go in the kitchen? At least once a week. For 2 years, he is still probing and trying to find him. By the way, he's never been fed in the kitchen. He's been bathed in the kitchen, which you think would be traumatic. He's never had any food. There's nothing in the kitchen. There's no food out. There's nothing that would draw him in there. But he has this innate need to explore, but more importantly, to willfully go where I don't want him to go. You can't win all the battles, but you might be able to turn the tide of the war. So, in summary, try to think like a cat. If they're misbehaving, there is a need they're trying to fulfill, and that need is usually food, boredom, or safety. If you have multiple cats and one of your cats keeps using the bathroom outside the litter box, safety. They may not feel safe using the litter box. The other cat might be surprising them, might be interfering with them while they're trying to use the litter. Marty once walked up to my other cat and bit him on the butt while he was in the litter box. That's a party foul, Marty. You should not do that. And he knows he shouldn't have done that, but he did that because he's a handful. So safety in that case might be the reason why your cat won't go in the litter box. If your cat is going behind the stereo and they're chewing on cables, if they're going on top of the bookshelf, if they're knocking your television over, stuff like that, that's curiosity or boredom or a mix of the two. The cat is trying to explore their environment. They're trying to find something fun to do. Like us, they get bored. Give them something better to do than going behind the stereo, going behind your computer, going on top of the bookshelf and knocking stuff over. Give them toys, give them puzzles. One of the things that's worked really well for me is I got this, it's like a maze. It's like a little tabletop game. And I'll put a pile of cat treats in there and that will keep them entertained for hours. Another good one, again, using cat treats, is I will put some cat treats on the floor in one part of the room. And while the cats are, munching over there, they're completely distracted. I will then take more treats and I'll hide them in the room. I'll put them in places where it's okay for them to go, but places where they have to do a little bit of searching for. Their cat tree, maybe behind a chair, places like that. And then they don't even see me doing it because they're so engrossed on the food that's in front of them. But later on they find it. And then that encourages them to look at those same places to try to find food. But I'm okay with them looking in those places. I want them to use their cat tree. And then the last thing is, like I said, punishing cats doesn't work. You get a squirt bottle, the cat jumps on the counter. You got to use a squirt bottle to squirt the cat to get them down. The cat associates the squirting with you, not with jumping on the counter. And if you're not there, if you're at work, if you're in another room, kitty's going to jump on that counter. If, on the other hand, you punish them in such a way where the cat associates the punishment with the act, not with you, and they don't want to jump on the counter anymore. The cat thinks it's their idea, and they won't be afraid of you. And because they're not associating with you, you don't even have to be there. The cat will associate it with the act. If you can show some patience, reward the good behavior, and only sometimes ignore the bad behavior. Ignore the bad behavior in the sense that if the cat's biting and scratching you, you stop petting them and you back up. You just don't give them any of your attention. If you can do these things, it's much easier to live with cats. They are smart. They're smarter than people give them credit for, and they will learn the rules. But you got to make learning the rules advantageous to them by meeting some of their needs if they follow the rules, and not meeting those needs if they break the rules. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you for watching my video. Please like and subscribe.